She sat on the same bench for 37 years, waiting for a man who never came back until the day a stranger sat down beside her and whispered 4 words that changed everything. I found your letters. What happened next will break your heart and put it back together. Stay till the end, because the last 30 seconds of this story will give you chills. Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this one deserve to be seen by more people. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, and if this story moves you even a little, share it with someone who still believes in real love. Now, let's begin. There is a small park at the edge of a quiet town, the kind of place tourists never find on a map. In the center of that park sits an old wooden bench, painted green, chipped at the corners, facing a pond that mirrors the sky. Locals call it Eleanor's Bench. They say an old woman named Eleanor Whitfield has sat there every single afternoon, rain or shine, for 37 years. Same spot, same time, 3 o'clock sharp. Children used to ask their parents why the old woman never left. Parents would shrug and say, "She's waiting for someone," but nobody ever came. Until one gray Tuesday in September, everything changed. A man in his 50s walked into that park, holding a small wooden box under his arm. He hesitated near the bench, staring at Eleanor like he had seen a ghost. Then, slowly, he sat down beside her. Eleanor didn't look at him. She never looked at strangers. But this time, something made her turn her head. The man opened the box with trembling hands and said the 4 words that would unravel everything. I found your letters. To understand why those 4 words mattered, you have to go back. Back to 1987, when Eleanor was 22 years old and desperately in love with a boy named Thomas Hale. Thomas wasn't rich, he wasn't polished, but he had a way of making Eleanor feel like the only person in the world when he looked at her. They met on that very bench, back when the paint was still fresh and the pond was surrounded by wildflowers instead of concrete. Every evening for 2 years, they sat there and talked about their future. A little house, a dog named Max, Sunday mornings with pancakes and bad jokes. Then the war came. Thomas was drafted, and on the night before he left, he brought Eleanor to their bench one last time. He handed her a folded letter and said something she never forgot. If I don't come back, read this. And if I do come back, meet me right here. Same bench, same time, no matter how many years it takes. Eleanor promised. She never opened that letter, because Thomas was declared missing 8 months later. No body, no confirmation, just silence. And so Eleanor waited, every day, for 37 years. Quick pause here, because I want to know, do you think Thomas is still alive? Type yes or no in the comments right now. I'll be reading your guesses, and trust me, this story is about to take a turn you will not see coming. Back to that gray Tuesday. The man beside Eleanor introduced himself as Daniel. He explained that he had recently cleared out his late father's storage unit, and buried beneath decades of dust, he found a wooden box filled with old letters, photographs, and a folded, yellowed envelope with 1 word written on it. Eleanor. Eleanor's hands began to shake. Your father, she whispered. What was his name? Daniel looked down, his voice breaking. Thomas Hale. The park seemed to go silent. Even the wind stopped. Eleanor hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in decades, not because people forgot Thomas, but because she forbade anyone from mentioning him. It hurt too much. He's gone, Daniel said gently. He passed away 6 months ago, but before he did, he made me promise something strange. He said if I ever found a box of old letters in his things, I had to bring them to a bench, in this exact park, and give them to a woman named Eleanor. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. He was alive, all this time? Daniel nodded slowly. He survived the war, but he was injured. Amnesia, they called it. He didn't remember who he was for almost 3 years. By the time his memory returned, he thought too much time had passed. He thought you had moved on, married, had a family. Eleanor's voice cracked. I never left this bench. Daniel's eyes welled up. He never stopped writing to you. Every single year, on the same date, he wrote a letter, but never sent them. He was too afraid. Daniel handed Eleanor the box. Inside were 37 letters, 1 for every year. With trembling fingers, Eleanor opened the very first one. We dated 1988. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, know that not a single day passes where I don't think of our bench, our pond, and the future we built in our hearts. I am too broken to come back the way I promised. I am not the same man, but I will always be the man who loved you first. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face as she opened letter after letter, watching Thomas's handwriting evolve through the years, shakier with time, but always ending with the same line, still yours, always yours. The final letter, dated just 7 months earlier, was different, shorter, written in a weaker hand. Eleanor, I am dying. My only regret is not walking back to that bench and taking your hand one final time. If my son ever finds you, tell him to sit where I once sat. Let him feel, even for a moment, what I felt every single day I stayed away. I am sorry. I loved you until my very last breath. Eleanor pressed the letter to her chest and wept. For a long moment, neither Eleanor nor Daniel spoke. The pond rippled gently in front of them, the same water that had witnessed a promise made 37 years earlier. Then Eleanor did something no one expected. She reached into her purse and pulled out an old, unopened letter, the very one Thomas had given her the night he left for war. The one she swore she would only open if he never came back. She had carried it, unopened, for 37 years. A silent act of hope. As long as it stayed sealed, in her heart, he was still coming home. With shaking hands, she finally broke the seal. Inside was a single sentence, written by a 23-year-old boy who believed with his whole heart that he'd return. No matter what happens to me, promise me you'll keep living, keep loving, and keep believing that some stories don't end. They simply wait for the right moment to continue. Eleanor looked up at Daniel, tears glistening in the afternoon light, and for the first time in decades, she smiled. He kept his promise, she whispered. He came back, just through you. Daniel took her hand gently. He'd want you to stop waiting now, Eleanor. He'd want you to start living. And so, for the first time in 37 years, Eleanor stood up from that bench not out of habit, not out of routine, but out of choice. She looked back one final time at the worn green paint, the initials carved into the wood decades ago, E+T forever. She smiled softly and whispered, "Thank you for waiting with me." Then she walked forward into the golden afternoon light, Daniel beside her, carrying 37 years of letters and a love story that refused to die. That bench still stands today. Locals say a young couple now sits there sometimes, reading old letters aloud to each other, keeping Thomas and Eleanor's story alive. If this story touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss another story like this one. Drop a comment below and tell me which letter moved you the most. And if you know someone who still believes in real, patient, unshakable love, share this video with them right now. Because some stories don't end. They simply wait for the right moment to continue.